Hello, and welcome to the Weird Around Illinois podcast. Today, we're actually going to be talking about an expedition we went on not in Illinois, but around Illinois, hence the name Weird Around Illinois. This time, we're going to talk about our hunt for Bigfoot in Ohio. In Ohio, for some reason, they call him the Ohio Grassman, but he's really Bigfoot. I don't understand why there are 3,000 different names for Bigfoot. The Ohio Grassman is one of them, and we went looking for him. And I should preface this by saying that this was almost an afterthought. We were all going to be in Ohio, for reasons I can't begin to understand or explain. But we realized when we were going to be in Ohio that it matched up with some of the stuff we'd read and seen about Bigfoot in Ohio, and we were like, hey, we're going to be really, really close to a couple of those sighting locations. We should go looking for Bigfoot. So we immediately started to prep for this trip by kind of rewatching some of the stuff we've seen before. And one of those things that we saw was an episode of Mountain Monsters that took place in Perry County, Ohio. You guys remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I remember there was a really good picture of Bigfoot that they saw there. He was just flipping huge. I mean, bigger than a normal Bigfoot. But so we scouted out some locations through BFRO reports, which is Bigfoot Researchers Organization, and they've got a really good sightings website that'll tell you what's been seen in your area or whatever area you're going to, and it rates the credibility of the sightings and things like that. So that really pointed us in the right direction. And then because we had never actually been on an expedition together, we ran a practice expedition, which ended up being the Dogman expedition that you heard in our last podcast, just to kind of, establish framework for us to do these things. So we felt like when we got to Ohio, we kind of knew what we were doing.
Yeah. Prepared.
Yeah. Or at least we thought we were.
Almost.
Right. So we got to Ohio, and the first couple sightings were in the Springfield, Dayton area. And we were so excited. They were such credible sightings. It was everything looked perfect. There were multiple witnesses, accurate descriptions. They gave us like down to the intersection where to find these sighting locations. And so we go driving around in daytime to scout out the location, and we're all kind of looking at each other. This is a neighborhood. This isn't like a woods. This isn't. It's like somebody saw Bigfoot coming home from the liquor store or something. So we were really, really disappointed, and we ended up, kind of scrapping that entire part of the expedition and going back to the drawing board. And then we realized that we were going to be in Perry County, Ohio, in a day or two. And that was exactly where the Mountain Monsters episode was. So we kind of refound our enthusiasm and got back on track after that. So we started our journey into the wilderness. And that was when we learned that you can drive a lot of miles in southeastern Ohio without ever seeing a gas station or a restaurant. And then, right when we were about to give up hope, we found both. And the restaurant was something special.
Yeah, it was called Wild Willie's Roadhouse. And let me tell you, when I first got to the door, I thought it was someone's house. I mean, it wasn't your traditional restaurant. The parking lot looked more like a driveway, and I think the place seemed barely open when we got there. They opened right when we got there. It was so weird.
Yeah, and this was like probably 4 p.m, something like that.
Yeah.
And we go inside, and it is truly a roadhouse. I mean, there's a stage set up there where Obviously, some bands must be playing. I get the feeling this is a place that's like really rocking on a Friday or Saturday night, but on a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, it just was not a busy place.
No.
Yeah, one thing that kind of creeped me out was those almost the weird characters that there was like this one character thing that was like standing here or sitting here like pretending to play the piano. It was just
like a mannequin.
so still. Yeah, a mannequin. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
It was very mysterious.
it was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the food was pretty good, and the owner was great. I mean, Wild Willie, he did not look like a Wild Willie.
No.
I was totally picturing like somebody from Mountain Monsters, but he just looked like a regular dude, and he was really nice and took care of us, and even put Bonanza on the TV for us, so we had something to watch since the place was so quiet.
Yeah, good show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, if you've ever seen Mountain Monsters, then that neighborhood in general will look very familiar to you.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I made a mistake at Wild Willie's, and it was one that I repeated later in this expedition. It's, I always talk about aspiring to be Bryce from Expedition Bigfoot and the Bigfoot Collectors Club podcast. And also, in some ways aspiring to be Trapper from Mountain Monsters. And in either of those cases, if those guys had been eating dinner in Wild Willie's, they would have pulled Willie aside and said, "Hey, Willie, you get any reports of Bigfoot around here?" And I just get the feeling that Willie would have probably had 5 or 6 stories for us, and I just didn't do it, and I regret not doing it, and it really could have been valuable. So, in future expeditions, I'm going to remember to talk to everybody.
Yep.
But when we got out of Wild Willie's, and I know we talked a lot about it, but that was really the last bit of civilization we saw on this trip.
It really was. I mean, there was as we went out of that area, we lost more and more connection on our phones.
Yeah.
Like our GPS was completely gone at one point. I mean,
yeah, shout out to the old guy here who happened to write down his directions so he didn't need his GPS the entire trip.
yeah, I don't know how he wouldn't have. I don't know how he would have found our way out if you didn't have a sense of direction.
Yeah. We're basically going into the Appalachian Mountains at this point, and the roads are getting steeper and steeper, and the terrain is just getting thicker and thicker around us. We're seeing woods, we're seeing ridges, and it looks like every Bigfoot show we've ever watched. I mean, literally around every turn, we're expecting to see Bigfoot coming over a ridge.
Yeah.
And so,
completely dirt roads.
Yeah, well, that was the funny part, because as I'm looking at my written directions, I'm like, okay, well, I know the roads are a little rough here, but we're about to come to City Highway 90 or whatever it was, and I was so excited to get on a highway. Now, I've driven on state highways. I've driven on interstate highways. I've even driven on county highways. They are all paved, two-way at least roads. City highways in Ohio are apparently gravel and dirt.
It's only in Ohio.
Yeah. So we turn on to good old city highway whatever, and immediately we're in a dust cloud. we're seeing, all kinds of like fenced off side roads that are people's driveways with signs saying trespassers will be shot and things like that. So we're trying to make our way towards something called the New Straitsville Trailhead, which is this little area where you can park and walk this trail, and it takes us through this forest. And I thought it would be a good place to get out and look for Bigfoot. And so we get to the New Straitsville Trailhead, and there's somebody like camped there, like right at the trailhead. And yeah, they look kind of sus.
Yeah.
And we're all getting these visions in our head of people who go into the woods and never come back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we've watched enough Mountain Monsters episodes to know what happens.
Yeah, so we left the New Straitsville trailhead to those fine campers.
Yeah,
we kept rolling along.
Yep.
And it wasn't long after that we actually passed another vehicle, which was kind of stunning because I didn't think we'd see another vehicle till we got back to Illinois at that point. But this vehicle was going the other direction, and the guy had his window rolled down as he gets close to us, and I see him kind of leaning out. And my immediate reaction was, I do not want to know what this guy wants to talk about. So I kind of passed him, without speaking or without even rolling my window down. But I realized I had just made my second critical error. This guy probably knew everything there was to know about Bigfoot in the area. Probably, if he was probably wondering what the heck we were doing back there. And if I had actually pulled up next to him and talked to him, maybe we would have told him we were looking for Bigfoot, and he could say, "Oh, Bigfoot, he's right over there."
They saw him right around the corner.
Yeah.
Take a left.
Yeah, exactly. But no such luck. My social skills failed me, and we kept driving. But what we did find as we drove along is we started seeing more and more of what the expert researchers would call Bigfoot sign. We started seeing trees on the side of the road in patterns that could not have been deadfall. We started seeing just all kinds of weird arrangements of trees and bushes, and admittedly, there are people who live around there. Maybe somebody could have rearranged these trees. Maybe a human could have done it. But
why?
Exactly. That's the question. Why? Unless, just they get a lot of Bigfoot researchers out there and they wanted to mess with us, but I doubt that. Honestly, I think that was some of the most convincing Bigfoot sign that I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
And the other thing we did out there, I remember now, we did some wood knocks.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah. So wasn't that when we were near the camping site?
We're at the
area?
construction site.
Yeah.
Was that the same time with that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the construction site.
I thought that was before.
And I thought it was interesting. Again, I base so much of this on other research shows that we've seen, but it seems like Bigfoot often gets spotted near logging sites and construction sites and things like that. And, there are those who believe that he hangs out in those areas because he doesn't want people tearing down the trees and, he doesn't want progress advancing, so he stays there to try to scare away the construction. So I thought that would be a great spot to kind of look for. We didn't get anything conclusive in that spot.
No.
Again, there was all that sign around there. There were all those weird tree structures, almost like tree branches woven together.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't really get footage of all of it, but we got some of it, thankfully.
Yeah. And so we wrapped up the expedition because it was starting to get really dark. And as creepy as it was driving there in the light, you described it earlier. As it got darker.
Yeah. Just as we were moving down almost the forest, it just kept getting darker and more just intense and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were getting concerned that we wouldn't make it out in time, but
yeah,
we managed to.
Yeah. Those weren't the kind of places you wanted to be, lost with no working GPS and, trying to find your way out in the dark.
Yeah.
But obviously we made it back. Wish we had more conclusive evidence, but we did complete our mission, and you can see some of the video on the YouTube site attached to this one.
Yeah. So if you want to subscribe and like to that YouTube channel, go ahead.
Again, Weird Around Illinois. And if you have sightings of your own, by all means, you can post them in the comments, or we will get you an anonymous form you can fill out to post information if you have a sighting and don't want to give away too much personal information.
Yeah.
So again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.